Hello, Jordan Burris here. Would you like to hear a song? Huh? The songwriter for today's song has one of the most interesting professional resumes you're likely to find, starting as a Rhodes Scholar, then a helicopter pilot, then a janitor, then a songwriter, then a recording artist, and finally, an actor. But before we get to the song, here's a brief bit of history about the song and the songwriter, Kris Kristofferson. Kris Kristofferson was born June 22, 1936 in Brownsville, Texas. In the early 1960s, under pressure from his family, Kris Kristofferson would enlist in the United States Army and become a helicopter pilot. But the life of a military man was not for Kristofferson, and in 1965 he left the Army to pursue his dream of songwriting, a move that would cause his family to disown him. He moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and worked odd jobs to scratch together enough money to record the songs that he had been writing. Eventually, he landed a job at Columbia Studios as a janitor, which allowed Kristofferson the chance to peek in on Bob Dylan while he was recording Blonde on Blonde, and say hello to his hero, Johnny Cash, in the hallway. Kristofferson would befriend June Carter Cash, wife to Johnny Cash, and slip demo tapes into her purse when she wasn't looking in the hopes that she would give them to John. Unknown to anyone at Columbia Records, classic country songs like Help Me Make It Through the Night and For the Good Times were being written by the janitor. Kristofferson was living the life of a starving artist, working as a janitor, living in a low-rent apartment in Nashville, Tennessee, and focusing his struggles into music. Given his living situation as well as his estrangement from his family, Kristofferson more than likely felt alone and isolated. These persisting emotions led Kristofferson to write one of his best-known as well as most affecting songs, Sunday Morning Comin' Down. Sunday Morning Comin' Down perfectly paints the weight of a solitary existence. As the story opens, we find that our character has smoked his mind the night before on cigarettes and songs, and is now paying the price. He seems to be content in his struggles when he's playing music, but in the quiet moments, like Sunday mornings, the melancholy becomes a little more defined. He drinks a beer for breakfast and one more for dessert, before getting dressed and heading out to the street, to an unknown destination. Along the way, he catches the smell of somebody frying chicken, and it, quote, took me back to something I lost somewhere somehow along the way, end quote. The notion of a Sunday family dinner, which is represented by the fried chicken, could be an acknowledgement of Kristofferson's sadness at the estrangement of his family. He wanders by a playground where a father is pushing his daughter on a swing, finally ends up at a church where he listens to a Sunday school of children singing songs. Imagistically, Kristofferson seems to be hearkening back to the simplistic nature of childhood, and the safety felt being held by your family and community. Finally, our character hears a bell ringing, and it, quote, echoes through the canyons like the disappearing dreams of yesterday, end quote. This gives us a glimpse at the wavering faith our character has in his chosen path. By the late 1960s, Kristofferson was becoming an in-demand songwriter, having performers such as Ray Price, Farron Young, Roger Miller, Ray Stevens, and Jerry Lee Lewis cover his songs. But his success would culminate in 1970 when Johnny Cash would perform Sunday Morning Comin' Down on his television show, The Johnny Cash Show. Famously, television executives ordered Cash to change the line in the chorus, "On a Sunday morning sidewalk, wishing Lord that I was stoned." Cash refused, insisting to stay true to Kristofferson's vision and artistic sentiment. Johnny Cash's version of Sunday Morning Comin' Down would hit #1 on the country charts and win a Country Music Association's Song of the Year award. With the success of Sunday Morning Comin' Down in 1970 and then Janis Joplin's iconic, posthumously released version of Me and Bobby McGee in 1971, Kristofferson's reputation as a songwriter was solidified, and he would parlay that success into a career as a recording artist and also an actor. When Johnny Cash was asked how he came to hear Sunday Morning Comin' Down, he remembered Kristofferson landing a helicopter on the lawn of his Hendersonville home. Cash remembers Kristofferson getting out of the cockpit, beer in one hand, demo tape in the other. He approached Cash, slapped the demo into his hand, turned, smiled, and returned to the helicopter. Kristofferson has pushed back on a few of these details. At the time, Kristofferson was working part-time for the National Guard, so he had access to a helicopter, and he does remember landing on Johnny Cash's yard. However, he claims nobody was home, and fortunately so, as he felt Johnny Cash would have shot him. As for whether or not he was drinking a beer, Kristofferson says, "There's no way to pilot a helicopter with one hand." That being said, Kristofferson refuses to outright deny Johnny Cash's account of the events, given how much of his career is owed to him. Kristofferson simply reflects that Johnny Cash has a creative memory. All right, I hope you enjoyed that brief bit of history about Sunday Morning Coming Down, written by the great Kris Kristofferson.
Well, I woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head that didn't hurt. And the beer I had for breakfast wasn't bad, so I had one more for dessert. Then I fumbled through my closet, through my clothes, and found my cleanest, dirtiest shirt. Then I washed my face and combed my hair. I stumbled down the stairs to meet the day. I'd smoked my mind the night before on cigarettes and songs I'd been picking. But I lit my first and watched a small kid cussing at a can that he was kicking. Then I crossed the empty street, caught the Sunday smell of someone frying chicken. And it took me back to something that I'd lost somewhere, somehow along the way. On a Sunday morning sidewalk, wishing, Lord, I was stoned. 'Cause there's something in a Sunday that makes a body feel alone. And there's nothing short of dying that's half as lonesome as the sound of a sleeping city sidewalk and Sunday morning coming down. In a park I saw Daddy with a laughing little girl he was swinging. Then I stopped beside a Sunday school and listened to the songs they were singing. Then I headed back for home. Somewhere far away a lonely bell was ringing, and it echoed through the canyons like the disappearing dreams of yesterday. On a Sunday morning sidewalk, wishing, Lord, that I was stoned. 'Cause there's something in a Sunday makes a body feel alone. And there's nothing short of dying half as lonesome as the sound of a sleeping city sidewalk and Sunday morning coming down. Of a sleeping city sidewalk and Sunday morning coming down.